Hi, friends. This is Chet, and I'm here sitting in the Connections Coffee House, enjoying a chocolate chip cookie and drinking a coffee, and with meditating on feelings of inadequacy and incompleteness, and how when it comes to mission and outreach, virtually all of us can feel really like we just can't do it. What can I do? I mean, just me, really. What can you do? You know, guys, honestly, sometimes we do feel really inadequate and not up to the task. And if I just see my own self, my own strength and resources, or listen to my fears, I'm toast. Yet, you know, we walk with Jesus, and God really gets our feelings of inadequacy. If you look in the Gospels, each of the Gospels records Jesus feeding the 5,000, which is actually probably 25, 30, 35,000 because the 5,000 was counting men. And he does that through his 12 bumbling, inadequate disciples in all their incompleteness. And you've probably heard me share this before. I'm going to repeat this in the illustration from my own personal life, because for me it's just so helpful, and maybe it'll help a few of you this week. In Luke 9 verse 12, the 12 disciples come to Jesus and say, "Send the hungry crowd away, send them away so they can go to the surrounding villages and countryside and find food and lodging, because we are in a remote place here." Jesus replies, "You give them something to eat, you do it." They answered, "Us? We have only 5 loaves of bread and a couple fish." I mean, Jesus, what do we have really when it comes to reaching our neighbors with the good news? But guys, God calls us to trust and believe right where we are. And often that's going to feel very inadequate and not enough for you, to you. I thought I'd tell you again, you've no doubt heard it before, but for me it's so helpful. One of the many times in my life when I felt so small and so inadequate, where God had to show me that he can do amazing things, even in a situation that feels just completely pathetic and hopeless. We were beginning a church in or called to begin a church in Eastern Ohio, from starting with our family of 5. We bought a house in the country a few miles outside of town. And I would go into town. I began going into town to listen to people, love people, to witness. After several weeks of that, and making some conversations in the coffee house and on the sidewalk, and a lot of prayer, and a lot of like Moses going to God and saying, "You got the wrong guy here, God. You know, this is just hopeless." I began inviting people to a Friday evening small group. And when you do that, you wonder, well, what if people come, and what if nobody comes, more likely? And I was anxious, and Holly picked up on my enthusiasm and anxiety, and she baked 2 big pans of yummy pumpkin bread and carafes of hot coffee, carafes, plural, and a big pitcher, as I recall, of lemonade. And yet I knew how hard it can be for a new family to just drive out in the country, and we lived up on a hill, and to come up that gravel driveway and park and then have the courage to walk into her house. And so as we get to about 6:30, I thought, this is just ridiculous. What was I thinking? And talk about feeling inadequate. My. Yet we get to 6:35, 6:40, and my family's kind of there. "Sorry, Dad." And then this one guy drives up the driveway. And this guy was hardly who you would want, the person you would choose to begin a new church with. He has some mental health going on and a lot of issues. But there was the temptation to despise small things and to say, we'll just try this another time and chat a little bit and send him on his way. Instead, we chose faith. And I remember my oldest son and my wife and I sat down and we prayed together. We really connected, and we blessed him as he blessed us, and sent him off after an evening. One person. The next week, a week later, he brings his mom. And then another family comes, and hard, just a mustard seed, but just beginning where we were, trusting and believing. It's all about God, and it's not about who we are. And beautiful things began to happen over the next weeks and then months and years as many, many lives were changed with small baby step beginnings, right where we were, often not having the words. At the front end, guys, the beginning, when we take little steps to reach out beyond ourselves, it's often going to feel pretty feeble and inadequate to you. Just little loaves and 2 fishes stuff. And yet, what a beautiful thing God was beginning, and we need to trust and believe. I'm sure you've heard this from me before, but when it comes to reaching out and the caring and listening and loving others, don't let your feelings flunk you. Don't let your feelings of inadequacy stop you. God knows what He can do, even through me and you. He does. Jesus' disciples were such a mess, and I love the fact that the Bible does not hide that from us. Yet He tells them, you guys, you give them something to eat. They didn't have much, just a little bread and fish, but they choose to trust it. And if you look there in the text, they go out to the crowds and say, sit down, everyone sit down, where you're about to be fed. The Master's here with us. I don't know their exact words, but that's what they communicated. They had to really trust before Jesus broke that bread and broke the fish that God was going to do a good thing. Luke 9:17 concludes it saying, they all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of bread, pieces left over. Can you imagine? Even leftovers. Wow, what we can do together when we're faithful, just taking little baby steps right where God's nudging us, even though we don't have the words or have what we need. We just step forward, trusting into the life of another, believing, knowing our Master's with us. God's alive, guys. He wants to do new things. What's our pastor say? Pastor Sebastiano, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. God's going to do a new thing, and I think it's going to be good. God bless your week. Hope you're doing well. Love to talk and chat. Have a coffee and maybe a cookie or two, too. Take care.